everybody, welcome back to my channel and welcome to a well overdue Q&A. It is no secret that it's taken me quite some time to get through the editing of the travel content that I filmed when I was in Asia at the start of this year, but with the last of the Hajang Loop videos now posted, it sort of signifies the end of my travel content for a while. So yeah, I thought, what better way to end this sort of chapter on my channel than by doing a Q&A, having a little bit of a reset, giving you a heads up as to what the next couple months of my life will entail, and a little bit of a heads up as to where this channel might be going. So, as always, I asked for questions over on my Instagram, which is just here if you don't follow me already. I post on there far too often, but if you want to keep an eye on what I'm up to in my day-to-day life, definitely follow my Instagram account, and by doing that it means that you can ask some questions in future Q&As to come. So let's get into it. We've got quite a few different topics to cover, quite a few different questions to touch on, and the first one I think sort of relates quite well to the previous content on my channel, which is how do you manage all the travelling? So around this time last year was when I had quit my job in teaching and when the main bulk of my travelling began. Over summer I had quite a lot of trips planned around Europe, and I decided rather than coming home in between them, I would just sort of fill the gaps in between, travel around, visit some different countries that I hadn't visited before. And when the last of my Europe plans came to an end in around October last year, I had about a week or so before I headed off to Asia. And the first stop on my Asian journey was in Indonesia, and that trip, as well as all of my Europe travelling over the summer, was all covered with my savings. For the 2 years prior to those trips, I had been working full-time as a primary teacher in Glasgow, and I'd also been doing a little bit of freelance video editing, social media work on the side. So I knew that I had that money behind me and I was able to use it for what I wanted, and at this point in my life, that is travelling. I then went to Japan on a working holiday visa, and I worked for around 5 months in a ski resort in Hokkaido, and so I was working full time there. I was saving more than what I had imagined that I would be saving over the course of the winter, which meant that when it came to travelling Japan after my contract had finished and then travelling Vietnam, I had my wages from my Japanese job in order to cover those trips. So for the last year or so, it has just been a mix of savings and working as I go. So, moving on from travelling, the next two questions I have sort of tie into each other. Someone said, I would love to hear about your career journey and what you're working on at the moment. And the next person, possibly with a little bit more of a clue into my life at the moment, has asked, what is the plan for McCree Media? So, those of you that do follow me on Instagram and are on there pretty regularly might have seen me promoting McCree Media over the last 2 months now. And for those of you that have no idea what I'm talking about, McCree Media is a business that I have now set up for myself. Basically, I came home from travelling in June and was at a little bit of a crossroads in my life. This time last year when I quit teaching, my impression was that it would be for just 1 or 2 years. Now I am siding more with the idea that I won't go back for a while, and I want to focus on my media work as my main priority, my main source of income. And so when I was at home for the majority of June, a lot of my time was focused towards creating a little bit of a brand for myself. I started the Instagram account McCree Media, where I have been updating my followers all about what I've been up to so far, and my goal is to access the motorsport industry through my work in media. For around 1.5 years, I have been social media manager to Best Impresa, which is yet another motorsport account. And I have done jobs related to motorsport here and there over the last couple of years where it fit into my teaching schedule, whether it be live interviews at rally events or creating social media content. I've done lots of bitty work within the motorsport media industry, but it was never able to be my #1 priority because teaching came first. So this is the first time in my life that media is able to be my #1, and so I'm taking the next couple of months, I'm putting my absolute all into becoming self-employed, becoming a freelance social media manager, content creator, and at the moment the bulk of what I'm doing is actually with my younger cousin Max. So Max is currently competing in the Junior European Rally Championship, and for the last 2 months I've been going with him on his ERC rounds. I've been documenting his progress, creating social media content for him, and just providing a little bit of a backup when it comes to posting online while he's still rallying, because that is quite a lot of work to be doing when your main focus should be driving a car and driving it fast. Going forward, there are a couple of exciting opportunities in the pipeline, none of which have been confirmed yet, so I'm obviously not going to overshare at the moment, but it's really given me that sort of new lease of life, that new sort of passion and excitement and drive to do something that I feel like I was missing for quite a while. So yeah, keep an eye on McCree Media over the next couple months. If you're interested in my career and where McCree Media is going, that's the place that you're going to be able to get sort of the most up-to-date news. And I'm hoping that 2024 will have some big things in store. We then move on to a few very presumptuous questions and statements. I've got a couple here that I'll read out. First of which is, more motorsport activities, rallying goals. I'm very excited to see more from your rally co-drive experience. It's a lovely part of motorsport. And then finally, will we be seeing you co-driving on events in the future, or maybe even driving? Now, these are the sorts of questions I receive quite frequently. Now that I've sort of opened up my online persona to include the history of motorsport that goes in my family and that sort of side of my life that for so long was removed from my online personality. But yeah, basically over the last couple of months, while I've been back home, I've obviously been getting more involved in motorsporting activities, both in the UK and around Europe. One of the main opportunities that came my way was while I was in Sweden. I got to sit next to my uncle Alistair in a Mark II Escort and drive some legend stages of the Royal Rally of Scandinavia, and that was a fantastic experience. But I feel as though some people got the wrong end of the stick there. I was by no means co-driving. I don't have the skill, the training to co-drive. I was just sat in the passenger seat enjoying the ride. So using words such as co-driver and driver seems a little bit out of my wheelhouse at the moment. I just get offered some really amazing opportunities that I would be silly to turn down, especially when I do have a passion for rallying, just not quite the skill set. But yeah, I will continue to get into a rally car at most opportunities that I can. It is something that I really enjoy, and hopefully by weaseling my way into the motorsport industry a little bit more, those opportunities will continue to keep coming. One confirmed event that we do have in the diary, however, is Rally Legend in San Marino. I've been to this event, I think this will be my 4th year now, and it is just fantastic. It is a celebration of all things rallying, and last year and this year I've taken a bit more of an active role within the planning of the event and within the entertainment side of things on the weekend. Last year I hosted the Best/Rally Legend talk show, which was incredible, and I will be doing something similar again this year under a new sort of umbrella. And there's also something very special in the pipeline for that weekend as well, which is more related to the driving and co-driving side of things as opposed to the presenting and media side of things. So if you are watching this video and maybe for the last couple of years Rally Legend has been on your bucket list, I highly recommend it, and this event coming in particular will be very special. Now, the next question that I have is, how long do you plan on staying in the media business? Do you envisage going back to teaching if it sucks? Well, my answer to the first part of that question is I'm not entirely sure at the moment. As I said towards the start of this video, I was sort of under the impression that I would be taking a year break from teaching and going back to it. But since taking that break, I've realised that there's so much more in this world that I want to do, and so much more I want to see and try and experience before I sign my life away to the classroom again. And so if McCree Media takes off in the way that I would absolutely love it to, and if I'm in the position to make it my full-time career, if I can earn a wage from it that is able to sustain me, I would do that for as long as I can. Because the wonderful thing about motorsport is it allows you to travel and to visit places that you might not otherwise get to go, particularly if the alternative is living in a classroom. So I am really giving this my all at the moment. I will do everything that I can to make this a reality for myself, and as long as I'm enjoying it and as long as it is sustainable, I will continue to be part of this industry. And the second part of your question, do I envisage going back to teaching if it sucks? I wouldn't necessarily say that teaching sucks. That's not the reason that I left. It's difficult, it's challenging, it is a very, very underrated job, I feel, in the sense that people don't give teachers enough credit. But it doesn't suck, and I think long term I will go back to teaching when I'm at a point in my life where I'm ready to settle down in the one place. I've got the travelling out my system to a certain extent and I want to put down roots, I guess. Then I think that's the time that I will return to teaching. But in the meantime, there's so much else I want to do. And that sort of answers the next question I've got here, which is, will you ever go back to teaching? And I guess the short answer to this is, at this particular moment in time, I'm say like 80% sure that I will go back to teaching, but not until I am perhaps 40 years old. So we'll see how that one ages. And the next question I have here is advice for new teachers who want to travel. Now, this is a bit of a tricky one because, to be honest, this is the primary reason that I left my job. Now, I'm not saying that it's impossible to travel while you are a teacher. Obviously, as a teacher, you have your summer holidays, you have Christmas holidays, Easter holidays. You have far more opportunity for time away from the classroom than what you might have, say, working an office job. But with that being said, there is a lot of planning that needs to go into it, which sort of takes away the freedom of travel that you would have otherwise. I feel as though it's tricky because everyone gives teachers a bit of a hard time saying, oh, you only work 9 till 3, you get so many holidays, blah, 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 blah. And that's just not the case. Anyone that is a teacher themselves or lives with or knows a teacher knows that they put in a lot more hours than 9 to 3 Monday to Friday. But it's also important to not dwell on the busyness of work. Teachers have an opportunity to do a lot of different travelling, whether it is just a weekend away somewhere in the UK, especially a long weekend is a great time to get out of your town or your city. And of course, those bigger trips can definitely be planned over your Easter or summer holidays. I know quite a few teachers that work in Glasgow during term time and will go off to Thailand or will go off to Australia during their summer holidays. It is possible to travel while teaching, it's just not the type of travel that myself was attracted to. I knew that when it came to travelling for me, I wanted to get more than just a couple of weeks staying in a hotel or an Airbnb in a new country. I wanted to be able to experience that country, to live there, to work there, and that's just not something that I was able to do while teaching. So I took a sidestep and so far it's paying off. Okay, the final teaching question that I have here is how you felt as an NQT. Did uni prepare you? So for those of you that are unaware, NQT stands for Newly Qualified Teacher. So pretty much it's the year that you come out of uni and do your first year teaching your own classroom. Now I'd say my experience of my NQT year was pretty different to most because I graduated uni in 2020, which was obviously the devastating COVID year. And so I sort of left university in March to move home for lockdown as a student, and then come August of that same year I was teaching my own class of kids, and that sort of transition was quite difficult because we didn't have the sort of closure you expected at the end of uni. We didn't have the usual initiation into your NQT year. Turning up at the school was very challenging because everyone had to be wearing masks. There was times that we didn't know whether teaching would go ahead as normal. And then obviously moving into 2021, we had another lockdown and children then started having to do home learning again, which is something that we were never taught at uni. So for me, there was a whole lot of trial and error involved in my first year of teaching, and a whole lot of stuff that we couldn't have been prepared for. Nobody knew that COVID was going to happen. Home learning is not something that was ever on the syllabus at university because it was never a possibility. But I wouldn't say that I felt underprepared. I gained a whole lot of tools from my time at university that I was able to utilise in different situations in my NQT year. And your best resource in that first year is your colleagues, the other people that you are working with, whether they've been a teacher for 40 years or whether they're fresh out of their NQT year. You can get advice and help from every single person in a school, and on the most part they will be willing to help you as well. Something that I will say, however, just to look out for, I went to uni in Aberdeen, which is obviously Aberdeen City Council, Aberdeenshire Council, and then my NQT year and my year following, I worked in Glasgow City Council. So I moved councils between my education and my first years of teaching, which meant that I was getting used to a whole other way of operating. The two different councils have totally different goals. They adapt the syllabus into ways that they think best fit the children in their catchment areas. And so a lot of what I did learn at Aberdeen University was quite Aberdeen city focused. And when I moved to Glasgow, they have a whole bunch of initiatives that aren't rolled out, say, up in Aberdeen. But the whole point of your probation year is that you teach and you get a full day out in order to do additional training from the council in which you're working in. So the learning doesn't really stop. And I think if there's one thing that teachers are good at, it's being flexible, it's being adaptable, it's thinking on your feet, and that is the skills that you need when you're transferring from student life into teacher life. And if you're asking this question because you're about to start your NQT year, best of luck. I hope you absolutely smash it. Okay, and for the last question, I thought we'd lighten things up just a little bit because there was a lot of very long answers within that Q&A there, so let's just finish with something easy. Someone asked, what are you listening to right now? And those of you that know me personally, do you know what, even those of you that watch my vlogs will realise I have quite an eclectic music taste. When I post my travel content, I like to include music that I was listening to at the time in order to sort of bring back memories and make the viewer feel what I was feeling and what I was enjoying listening to at that time. So you've probably gathered from my channel over the last couple of years that I have quite a diverse music taste, and so it is always changing. However, something that I have been absolutely loving recently is a new podcast, and the majority of the time that I go to put on some form of noise when I'm working, it is the podcast We Mean Well. Honestly, if you have not come across it and you're up for just a bit of tongue-in-cheek, bordering on dark humour, please give this podcast a listen. It's basically these two mates, Louisa and Jarch, and they are just hilarious. The podcast is pretty much them just chatting about their lives, playing a few little funny games. It is brilliant, light-hearted fun. So that's my recommendation for your Spotify or your Apple Music or whatever you choose to listen on. And with that comes the end of this video. I really hope that you guys enjoyed watching. If you have any further questions about anything that I spoke about in this video, please do leave them down below. And as we're sort of starting a new chapter here, if you have any video suggestions that you'd like me to film or anything that you would like to see in more depth, please let me know also. Throughout the course of this video, I have mentioned quite a few Instagram accounts that I think you should go and follow if you're not already. I'll pop them on screen right now, you can do your thing. And as long as you are subscribed to this channel, I will see you again very soon with another video. Goodbye!